Gary Lyon and welcome to Access All Areas. What a terrific first week of the finals. Some fantastic football play, but heartbreak for the Tigers. Damien Barrett, third year in a row, out in the first week.
It's now a fact, isn't it, Gaz, that this setup that they've got is just not good enough. They can't get into the second week of finals. Psychologically, a lot to deal with. And between now and their next match, their next round one game, 2-16, a lot of soul-searching needs to go on. Yeah,
there's no doubt about that. And look, they're going to analyse this until the cows come home. But the bottom line is when your big gun players don't play well and you hack the footy, then you're going to lose games. And that's what happened. And it's been a continuing theme and thread of this Richmond side for a long time. I think they've, to a large extent, corrected a lot of it. But this is where it comes to light. This is where it has to stand up. And their disposal at the critical time of this game, they got out to 21 points a couple of times. They just started to revert to kind. They started to hand the footy back, Damo. And the pressure, the one-on-one pressure, Chaplin loves to play behind the footy, been the free-up man for Richmond all year. One-on-one, he was exposed a bit. Delidio turns the footy over. This is the sort of stuff that Richmond supporters at this stage of the game, third quarter, 3 minutes ago, are thinking, oh no, here we go again.
Yeah. Because 2-13, we know what happened against Carlton. 2-14, we know what happened against Port Adelaide. This arguably, though, was worse because the noises going into this game from Damien Hardwick were we are so much better than those past 2 years, and yet the score in the end, as close as it was for most of the game, probably flattered them.
Oh, you'd say they performed better than they have in their previous finals, I would say. I mean, they got to the position where their form line stood up for 2.5 quarters. But then what defines teams and what separates the good from the bad is that they can maintain that for the journey. And the harsh thing is, and the harsh reality is, over the course of this week's finals, big name players, gun players stood up, and for Richmond they didn't. And the captain's the first one who had to put his hand.
I was going to say the captains have stood up throughout this course of this first week, and Richmond's didn't, unfortunately for him. Trent Cotchin, 9 disposals and was shut down by Ben Jacobs.
Yeah, and credit to Ben Jacobs, whose back half of this year's been outstanding. But 9 possessions from your premier ball winner and the man who set you alight. I mean, everyone looked at him for the last quarter to say this is where the lift's got to come from. So, no, he's going to have to live with that. And he's the sort of bloke that will carry it, and you'd expect him to wear it pretty hard. Anyway,
you move on. If you're a Tiger fan, you go on your Facebook and have a look at what they sent out half an hour after the game goes.
Yes.
2-16, here we come.
And then taken down pretty quickly. I don't think the Richmond supporters are in the mindset to suggest that they're going to renew just that at that particular time, so maybe a bit hasty.
Brent Harvey, Gaz, extraordinary performance for a 37-year-old to do what he did. And this period here, halfway through to late in the second quarter, he had a 5 to 6 minute period where he just stabilised what was going on at North and was crucial to them going into the main break with a feeling they could do it. And then outside that main break, he was just extraordinary.
The legend grows, 31 possessions, 14 contested, 7 clearances, 12 score involvements. All credit to Boomer.
Look at this kick. Look at that kick.
It's his ball use, which I love as much as anything else. And I love the way North Melbourne have handled this young man. I know you and I have disagreed over the journey about the way they went about the possible re-signing of him. But I think keeping him on edge right through to the finals, I think, and then a nice relief. And that performance was unbelievable. So, well done to him and well done to North Melbourne. A lot of the narratives about Richmond and, you know, how big it is and how much of a disappointment. Well done to North Melbourne, first and foremost. They took risks in the off-season. They said, we're going to get Higgins and we're going to get Waite. And there were plenty out there that said, well, what are they doing?
I queried the Waite one particularly, and I was doubtful about the Higgins one. I mean, they've been outstanding.
Well, you have the rest. You rest the 9 players as well, Damo. These are decisions that the whole football club then have to accept and wear, and then you hold your breath. And what they did is they held their breath, and in the end it was a master stroke, a genius stroke by the North Melbourne Footy Club in resting the players and then recruiting these sorts of players.
He played with authority yesterday, didn't he?
He did.
Jared Waite.
He did.
And that mark there taken in the goal square was the 4th goal he kicked. Just to add to Carlton's considerations too, Gaz, Betts and Kennedy had pretty good games too for clubs that they didn't start with.
No, that's the horror continues even when they're not playing for the Blues. Lindsay Thomas was a sub, came on. I always thought he was a nice little wild card to have up your sleeve. At this stage, just prior to the third quarter, got reported for that. That'll get thrown out.
Thrown out, you reckon?
Yeah, but the 50-metre penalty. Well, what are you going to report him for?
Well,
scratching.
Look, it's a fine at the least. It's a fine at the least, and who knows what they might do. I mean, don't do it for starters. And look, Grimes is acted.
Did Dylan Grimes need to fling the head back as aggressively as that?
But he has put his foot into an opponent's chest.
100% stupid from Lindsay, 100%. But reportable, no.
Well, you know what they do.
Yeah, well, that's another question too. Adelaide and the Dogs. Let's move back to Saturday night. This final series was, the first week, was everything you can hope for. And this game was a throwback. But that boy there, he's going to have to live with that. Lockie Hunter, a point down, 2.5 minutes to go. You've missed a handball.
It wasn't by much, though, was it, either?
I don't care, don't I? You got no pressure on you. You're running forward. You missed the handball. And look at Tex Walker.
Yep.
He pushed all the Adelaide players up to get space behind him, and that allowed this to unfold. Sloan, who was enormous, gets it out into space. Don't forget, there's Lynch, one of those forwards that pushed up to the contest, works under the footy, and now, and this is a difference. Richmond didn't handle the pressure.
Yep.
Look at Tex. Everyone's cheering. Everyone's saying, kick it, kick it, kick it.
This kick is the kick of the year.
Yeah, I agree with you. Because he kept his head, Damo. So you talk about what's wrong with Richmond. That play there from Tex Walker, play it to Richmond today in your review and say, this is what happens in a big final. Everyone's screaming at you. You've got the footy in your hands. You're the one that controlled the play. And he didn't rush. He didn't panic. He summed it up and then he executed.
Well, someone else who was also in that category late in that game too was Paddy Dangerfield, guys. He just demanded the footy. He went and got some balls that really weren't his. He's lucky here. This kick went over the intended target. But that's what happens when you're prepared to take the game on, as he did in this last quarter, as that man did there.
10 in the last quarter. 10 possessions in the last quarter to Danger, and there's a couple of contested marks. Watch the follow-up work here. So that's the kick that goes inside 50. Then who's the player at the drop of the ball? Dangerfield. So his work rate was enormous. Picken did a pretty good job up till there, but these are the ones here. These contested marks, look at that, 4 minutes 25.
Yep.
They need to get it out. Look at this mark here. I mean, they are big defining moments when it matters most. So reputations are enhanced in finals, and he's done it again. Riley Knight, young man. Now, give us the backstory to this.
Backstory to this, he kicked 2 goals, guys. This is the first of the 2, and you can see how he motions up to the sky. That's to Phil Walsh, who told Riley Knight in the week that Phil Walsh passed away that he was going to be playing his debut game of footy. That's the reason for that. That's the backstory for that. And he stood up in that game. And Phil Walsh is still playing a role, clearly, because it was referenced by Scott Camperelli post-match in what's happening with the Crows this season.
Yeah, part of that forward pressuring pack that the Adelaide Crows have got. Umpires, big day, big ground, big finals moments. Have a listen to Matthew Nichols. Sound up here. This is the first bounce of the big game. Have a listen to him.
Oh, yes. Play on. Play on.
There's more.
Wait.
First one away. Okay, separate a metre.
Gary.
Yes?
Please.
What?
You can't be that happy with his work that he's talking to himself and commentating that he's got to bounce away.
Don't dare come for the umpires on this. The players are allowed to work themselves up into a frenzy for the final. That's his big moment. When they nail a big goal, the players carry on like they've just won an Olympic gold medal. Surely old Matty Nichols can get away with a ooh,
a little bit over the top.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm going to take myself upstairs and do that after the game.
I liked it.
Dogs banner against Adelaide.
Lucas Shearer, our producer, has got a fascination with banners. I think this is his cousin. This is the man who writes the banner, and he had a nice clip at the Adelaide Crows saying that of all the things that happened, the worst thing is that our banner was better than theirs, and that's what hurts. What is Lucas'
It wasn't a great banner, though, was it, for the Crows?
No.
Hey, Freo, guys, fell in the end against the Swans. Again, couldn't get a massive score on the board, but 2 guys who were really crucial to what happened in establishing that good lead was that man there, Walters, and also Ballantyne, who played his first game in 7 weeks. And he was fresh, he was good. Can they kick enough goals up? They're going to be relying on these 2 men. And I know this has been the question we asked at the start of the year. We're asking it as we go into for their case, the 3rd week of finals.
6 goals between the small forwards is above and beyond what you'd hope for. But I think it was 10 in total, which remains the query and the question. And you couldn't have asked for any more from this man, who'd been out for a long time. Thought he was outstanding. Thought Walters had the X factor working beautifully. So those 2 boys look like they're going to hit the next 3 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks in really good nick, and that's all you can hope for, because everything else is going to be a bonus. We know where Freo are at, and they're through. The bottom line is, though, on Ross Lyon and Freo, for all the questions that you ask, and here he is at 3/4 time delivering a really nice sort of tear the paper off the wall sort of style spray. Did this against Richmond when they were in trouble at the MCG earlier in the year as well. The bottom line is, all they can do is say, hey, we finished on top, we've played our first final, we've beaten them, we're into a prelim, we've got a weekend off, it's going to be in Perth. What more do you want out of our football club?
Yep, that's all you can ask, isn't it?
Oh, well, of course
When
it
it's
is.
all said and done, that's all you can ask, and he's sitting very comfortably. Swans, guys, they were gallant. They've got injury concerns, haven't they, with the big names that are out, but their bottom 6 probably had games that is going to expose them, potentially even as early as this week against North Melbourne.
Well, that's what happens. They lose Jack, they lose Parker, Reid during the game goes down. They're going to be without Buddy, of course, coming in. So,
is Rowan up to it?
Well, I think he is. Yeah, I think he's worth persevering. Had a nightmare, had
Brandon
a shocker. Brandon Jack, well, he's inexperienced. Lloyd's one of those. Towers had a good game but fumbled at times, and then Cunningham got taken to the cleaners by Walters. So that's going to happen. Your underbelly's exposed a bit. We'd expect their depth isn't quite as deep as some of the other finalists. And
that Perth crowd again just decided to ridiculously boo Adam Goods.
Well, it's just, no, we're not going to dwell on it, but you're morons. Simple as that. You are morons, and we're going to be back there in 2 weeks' time. See if you can handle yourself with a touch more class.
Well, Ross Lyons summed it up beautifully, I thought, when he actually said during the week that if Adam Goods is telling us it's racism in his eyes, it is racism, and yet they go and do it.
Simple. Hawthorn now, they're going to have to do it the hard way. 4 weeks ago we spoke about their disposal and the fact that they got a little bit sloppy, and this is a side that's been renowned for their ball use. But put this down to West Coast too. Yep. West Coast team. I know people say, oh, you know, these are bad decisions by good ball users. Well, that is a pressure thing from a West Coast Eagles side that has got so much going for them. But, I mean, is Ruff going to do this again? Is Ruff going to get 2 shots at this again?
Well, he hasn't been in great form now either, has he, Guess?
No, he
hasn't. And a lot of them probably haven't.
That's not a form thing for Ruff. I mean, that's just...
What, is it a form thing for that man, James
It is.
Frawley?
Yeah, James Frawley just found out what it's like playing for Melbourne down in the bottom half against the best pressure team in the comp.
Hodge was good in the second half, and that was an out on the full kick there, Gaz. The supporters who noticed that gave him some advice and offering him a little drink of...
And look, we had a crack at the West Coast crowd about their booing about Adam Goods, but this is the sort of banter that's all good and well.
There's no problems with that.
Yeah, Hodgie, would you like another one? I mean, that's good. Boo him about that sort of stuff. That's fine, but just lay off the other stuff. Hey, West Coast, put your hand high in the air if you were one of those that thought they weren't capable of getting to this point in the season, and I'll lead the charge.
Yep.
And that man, Nat Newey, we'll talk about him in a moment, is symptomatic of where they're at. They just... Sometimes... when you look at a game, you see a buy-in from a whole footy club.
Yeah.
And look at the fanaticism of this. I mean, it's just a joy to watch.
And they've got 2 very good players to come back in. Prittis certainly, and you'd think Marston would too for that preliminary final.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Yeah. And look at that. It's blasting away from Hawthorn that you don't see. And that's from the best ball user, I think, going around from Mitchell, you know. And their body's on the line stuff. They lose players. McGovern was out of that game for about 15 minutes at one stage. Yeah. That's Xavier Ellis. Now, would Xavier Ellis be getting a game at Hawthorn?
No, well, he wasn't, was he?
Well, he wasn't, but he's Adam Simpson's right-hand man, so they are a joy. And I'm about to go down, so take over.
Gaz, Nick Naitanui, post-match, you could see the raw emotion, which is clearly because of his mother passing away about a month or so ago. He missed 2 matches of footy. He's come back in extraordinary form and dominated that game in the ruck contest.
I got really emotional saying that, Damo, as I'd imagine a lot of people did, because he's just played 4 magnificent quarters of footy. Siren goes, you'd think you'd be in the most euphoric state, and obviously and clearly and understandably there's more important things in life than footy for that man, yet he still performs. So respect for him grows every time he plays.
It does. Hitting the exits, Gaz, out of GWS.
Yeah, break this story that Cameron McCarthy was out the door that everyone denied, and you're right again.
Well, he wants to. He's contracted, as we know, but he wants to leave. And if you add that name there, Cam McCarthy, to other names, there's a few names there now. We've sort of snuck up on us a little bit.
They are growing, and look, everyone said this is going to happen, and then everyone said, no, the Giants are doing a great job by maintaining him, and I think they have by and large, but when you do isolate it and look at it, I mean, Hompsh and Miles have been fantastic. Tyson was runner-up in a BNF. Josh Bruce led the Coleman or thereabouts for a while. Adams is great. Treloar, we know, is going to be a wonderful player. So, yeah, it's a pretty significant list. Yeah,
just by way of comparison, the big names to be leaving or about to leave the Gold Coast on the right.
Very nice work by you, Damo. That is it for another edition of Access All Areas. Our wash-ups continue this week, however. Tomorrow we dissect the Cats 2015 season. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.